Alright guys, time to talk about the thing I try my hardest to never talk about. Many things. Autistic is one. Smart isn't one. So I was diagnosed with being on the autism spectrum around 2009 or so. You know, the peak of the words autism and autistic being used exclusively to describe Sonic fans, or at worst, the equivalent of modern day terms like cringe or Reddit humor, or worster, something paired with the R word. It's great! But yeah, for the longest time, I was kind of embarrassed by the autism spectrum, which is a neurological disorder where people affected have symptoms such as difficulty communicating and understanding communication, being more sensitive to normal stimuli than a neurotypical person, display repetitive behaviors both in terms of physical gestures and mindsets, and being more logical in terms of thinking rather than the thinking big picture. It can affect anyone, but it's more often diagnosed in white men. That's because it affects them more and more because, well, society. I hated this part of me for a long time, and I think a big reason for that is because I just didn't understand it. And I think part of that is because it's nowhere in any of the media I watched as a kid. Like, yeah, my teachers and parents explaining it is cool, but how do I truly understand it unless, like, from Donkey Kong has it? After all these years, autism is fairly underrepresented, so I'm going to do something that I always wanted to do. Talk about every single canonically autistic character in animation, and discuss if they're good representation or not. Now, some rules to what counts. For one, I'm exclusively discussing cartoon versions of these characters. If characters are initially written as autistic, yet their cartoon version doesn't mention it, they're not here. For example, Black Manta has been a consistent character in DC cartoons, but he's never been confirmed as one way or another in any of them. Well, in the comics, he is. As confirmed when he tells Aquaman this, so he heals Manta of his autism using his healing hand to make him a better person. Only for Manta to then continue being a monster who just wanted to get rid of his condition.
I lack the talent to make this shit up.
2. Character must be canonically confirmed as such, either explicitly in the show, like via characters saying they are, or implicitly, like a notable staff member of the show saying they are. Coded characters, as in ones that have clear signs of autism but aren't directly confirmed, are not included. Now there's a problem with that. I have a few headcanons too. Only a few. 3rd, no internet series. There are just too many out there. I would miss one. If I include the really big series, I would also have to include ones that literally just started up, have less views in my own videos, if that's even physically possible. Not doing it. I did extend this from just normal TV cartoons to animated movies to anime though only found 1 for films and 0 from anime. I found 4 mangas starring characters ASD, but I include manga, I also have to include comics too, and I am not discussing Black Manta again. Also, character must be a full character, not just a joke or exist only to get a message. This leads me to 33 characters across 29 shows, which is both more or less than I expected. Oh, and final big warning, I am not a psychologist, I am not an expert in this, I'm just some nerd in my basement. I did research this topic, of course, and like, I am of autism, but I'm bound to miss something. It is a spectrum, everyone is different after all. If you relate to anything I say, please do not self-diagnose and look for an official diagnosis. Oh, and this is just autism spectrum, not other neurological disorders, ADHD. There's shockingly even less than ASD. Like, it doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. But there's a few characters in animation that have it. Like, off the top of my head, these. But simply, I don't have it, so I'm not qualified to discuss it. Let's see from truly in all of these guys' tism. Here is a look at every single canonically autistic character in animation. So our first character comes from 1997. I'm both shocked and not shocked that it's this far back. It's a bit of a weird one to start with though. Remember Kablam? It's a sketch series made out of several unrelated short series, hosted by Henry and June. You might know one segment, Actually Now, which is popular enough to get its own series. Another segment was Life with Loopy, about a kid named Larry living with his child prodigy younger sister, Loopy. There was a fan theory that both characters were autistic, and it was confirmed by the creator long after the show ended. Actually, I don't know if this was confirmed at all, as all I can find saying this is TV tropes, and I can't find the original interview, but let's humor it. Well, I'll try to, because there's not much with these characters. But even self-contained 3-minute shorts, it's not like there's a lot to these guys. Barry isn't much of a character at all until much later, as he's mostly just a narrator. Well, besides for looking like Itadori, there's a few notable things. He's not his clear special interests, being basketball, a band named Bugsteak, and a show called The Charlie Chicken Show, alongside being more logical than his sister and self-narrating the story, which isn't just for the audience, it's canon, he does it aloud. Loopy, on the other hand, falls into the eccentric genius stereotype a lot of autistic characters hit, without hitting some stereotypes like being pretentious or monotone. She also tends to be very literal-minded, though that can be excused by her being 7. For example, when she took her mom saying the toilet leads to goldfish heaven completely seriously. Until it turns out that, yes, goldfish heaven is real! Go flush yourself right now! Basically, Larry is Candace and Loopy is Phineas and Ferb. Since the validity of these two even being autistic is highly questionable, I'll give them a pass. For 3-minute shorts, there's enough to connect it both, so I'll take them. I didn't make a single Larry the Lobster joke this whole segment. I have the resilience of a god. So, yeah, I'm a bit more forgiving to something as innocent as just a pair of siblings. It's nothing like really like questionable or controversial, like, I don't know, freaking death himself or something. That's oddly specific. I wonder if the next character is death himself. So here we have three characters. A sociopathic, emotionless girl, a boy so stupid Patrick would tell him to pay more attention to school, and the actual literal Grim Reaper. I can defend this. Okay, so first and most obviously, the show's creator Maxwell Adams has Asperger's. And sometime after diagnosis, he declared the trio were as well. He actually has this really nice explanation on Tumblr, saying that the figure basically is parts of him split. Billy is the fun, lighthearted, and creative part of a condition, Mandy is the cold, rational side, and Grim is the mediator. It's a shockingly deep way to view a show where the main character was once turned chocolate and eaten alive. Even apart from that, there's a few small things to show it's not out of nowhere. Billy does raptor arms a lot, emotion very common in autistic children. Grim has a few literal-minded moments, and Mandy's general monotoneness. Mandy is a huge note. The sadly canceled film, To Destroy Us All, was going to be about Mandy's Asperger's, but the film was never picked up. Max described the film as having a similar vibe to the final piece of Grim Adventures media, Underfist, a film about the pains of growing up but isn't preachy or depressing because it's about a candy rabbit taking over the earth and seeing spiders and elephants. Honestly, looking at it, there's a lot of autism going around in the show. I brought up Nargo Jr.'s entire deal several times throughout videos, but then there's also his father, who has awful social skills and excels in certain topics, Billy's dad, who's basically just him but older, Jeff, who's extremely naive and overly trusting, is literally voiced by Max himself, Erwin is extremely clingy. Honestly, I think it's such a requirement to be on the show, you have to be autistic. If a neurotypical person steps into Enville, they just disintegrate. So tell me if this sounds familiar. El Tigre is a classic 2000s Nick show that, conquered for cancellation, and creator Jorge Guerrera getting diagnosed with Asperger's, he declared that the title character is also on the spectrum. So Nick stealing CN's homework isn't a new thing, it seems. No, jokes aside. While Manny was never hit me as autistic, so was Jorge never hit people as such. It wasn't until his son was diagnosed that he was too, long after the series ended. And since Manny is based off him, well, I assume the whole crime fighting and evil grandpa thing wasn't Manny's personality. It also translated. Jorge himself has stated he didn't really fit the stereotypical view of autism, but it doesn't make any less of it. And you know what? King moves. So the only movie here is one I never heard of. Kinda. Max and Mary. I didn't know much about this film, but I remember seeing this meme about some guy typing extremely quickly on a typewriter titled, "Me writing the most autistic lore for my OCs." I was not expecting that to be so accurate to the movie. The film is about an Australian girl named Mary, who becomes pen pals with an American man named Max, who has Asperger's. For a film that starts as two dogs fricking, it's a very somber film, based on a real pen pal director Adam Elliott had. Max is fairly pathetic in the film, but the movie does humanize him. In terms of autistic traits, they're played for both comedy and drama, as he has trouble doing new things, understanding cues, tends to over-explain things, has a more black and white view than the film's visuals, and is still quite naive despite his age. Even with his stupid Shrek ears and a few jabs at some of his quirks, this is a shockingly good portrayal of the condition. Yes, they poke fun at it, but at one point Mary tries to cure him of his condition, and he gets offended by such ideas and says he shouldn't be cured. This being an adult dramedy really helps both explain it in detail and make it entertaining. So in the end, I've been watching this. It's definitely not an uplifting film, as they do beat down poor Max a lot, but it's one I think everyone should watch at least once. Archer's a bit of a strange series. It was huge in the early 2010s, but nowadays no one really talks about it. Heck, I doubt many even knew it ended last year. Because of that, I personally never felt the need to watch through it, but I will next year when I do my adult cartoon watch through. What I'm trying to say is take my thoughts on Archer's canonical autism with a grain of salt. Though I did do a lot of research, watch select episodes, and discuss it with a friend who's a huge Archer fan. The big thing with him is that he loves guns even more than the entirety of Texas, being able to instantly name any caliber of gun, and he counts up bullets whenever he shoots them. Archer being of autism was a fan favorite for a time, but was later addressed directly in an episode where Lana comes out for it. He denies it, before immediately calling out a type of gun when it's fired, before marking, "Oh my god, maybe I am autistic." From what I can tell, it's never brought up as a bad thing, just a, that explains it type of deal. In addition, he notably is uncomfortable with change. He has a very monotone way of speaking, with other objects he can immediately detect, like the exact style blender from a noise alone, and has extreme shifts in emotion. Gun Obsession definitely comes from a mere fan of gun shows to a clear special interest of his. So I'd say, from my knowledge, he's actually a good example. Showing clear signs of condition, but not diving too deep into stereotypes. I've also seen people cite his deep connection with dogs in his time, but personally, if you don't make silly voices when talking to your dog, I just don't trust you. You see a lot of videos that easily trigger troglodytes overreacting over characters having a race or sexuality change, but not a lot about people freaking out over a character gaining a disability, mostly because it's rare. And usually a thing like giving a character a prosthetic limb or a wheelchair, not giving them a mental disability. But I actually got some here. The first is Fred from specifically Mystery Incorporated. If you didn't know that, I don't blame you, as it came out around the same time as Velma being revealed as a lesbian. An extremely popular headcanon, so it didn't shock me that it kind of overshadowed Fred. Still, I was a version of Fred, and he has a pretty good representation of autism. He's obsessed with traps, thinking about his hyperfixation, and if you're looking for being little rather than people, he's super literal-minded, and is also an alpha Chad who doesn't need relationships. With the loose continuity of Scooby-Doo, you could argue that this applies to all, or at least most Fred versions, but as far as the canonical ones go, only this middling kid is. But now the show I was kind of expecting to start this video off with, honestly, Arthur. It's known for including more serious topics that kids can deal with, but tackling autism seems inevitable, and it happened in the 2010 episode When Carl Met George. Being for really young kids, Carl is of course a fairly accurate representation of a stereotypical autistic kid. Hates loud noises, isn't comfortable talking to people, hates unfamiliar situations, but finds unique ways out of them, has an irrational hatred of the color brown, which I don't find irrational. It knows what it did, and is obsessed with trains. Genuinely shocked this is the first train mentioned in this video. That was obvious autism hyperfixation. He's also very sensitive to loud noises, but I think that's at least partially because he's a rabbit, and his ears are the same size as his head. Carl is our typical autistic character. I consider skipping him since you could argue he is an educational figure, and not a full character, but he is recurring and grows a friendship with George, so he's good. Just not super special. Just like Archer, I've never seen Bob's Burgers. I see more of it than that show though. A few assorted episodes, the driving scene people think is peak comedy for some reason, and the aggressively mid-movie. So I have a bit more context on Tina Belcher. In terms of personality, I can see it. She's monotone, socially awkward, loves butts. That's a sentence I wrote and subsequently read my entire Legion of Fan, singular. She also tends to do very repetitive motions and so on and so forth. Honestly, I can see it. But the big reason she's listed as canon is this scene from the episode Human Flesh, where Louise and Jean accuse her of being autistic. Jean throws some toothpicks on the ground, and she erroneously counts them. A direct slam of the savant stereotype that was popularized with Rain Man, which is the exact same trick. But I think people are missing that in this literal exact scene, Bob says she isn't autistic. I trust her dad to know that more than her siblings. Again, I haven't seen much of Bob's Burgers, but from what I can see, she has the blueprints, but not the canonical backing. You know, it's weird. Like Archer, this is a show that really dropped in popularity, and during its peak, Tina was undeniably the breakout character. But now, doing research for this video, she seems much more divisive, mostly due to her constantly stalking guys she has a crush on, with many pointing out this will likely be seen as wrong were you to flip genders. I'll leave it to people who have seen the show, but to me, I'm not too on board with this character I've spent 3 random episodes recording a movie with. This is definitely the most interesting character on the list. And by interesting, I mean bad. So Adventure Time is arguably the most popular show on this list. So might come as a shock that it has a canonically autistic character, and that's not more commonly known. It's because it's Lemon Grab. Now again, this is a little rocky. Again, TV Trope site interview I can't find. But I also found some Reddit posts referencing said interview, so it seems likely. As for how he is as representation, well, he's a victim of parental neglect, where you're supposed to side with the abuser, until he morphs into a sociopathic man-child with no filter, an abuser ruler who canonically has both suicidal thoughts and depression. It's so overly emotional that anything will cause him to get mad, and in the end, he's either kidnapped by Princess Bubblegum and has his bad traits removed. Yes! Yes! Eugenics! Okay, so, yeah, not super flattering look here. There is good to him. Some of his earlier appearances in particular does show a calmer and less killy side of him, but then he does the whole entire roar, and yeah, that's kind of point of no return. And again, having Bubblegum literally fix him, yeah, that's just, that's just, whew. And you know, him being an abuse victim and abuser of his own brother and children. But hey, in fairness, his new version, Lemon Grab 3, is a much nicer person, has a few autistic traits, with the same speaking patterns as the original, and getting put off by minor things like food on a blanket. But he's so sidelined that it doesn't even matter. I will say, there's a few other Adventure Time characters who could be a good rep if confirmed. If you don't believe that Bubblegum is literally Hitler too, the idea of her being autistic works. She sells in certain projects, but not with people. Her brother Nettie has a lot of trouble with people and is very anxious, but enjoys doing simple repetitive moves. Bimo is literal-minded, and also a robot. A common comparison for people on a spectrum. The problem is they're stuck with Lemon Grab. And that is completely not something I'd rather go along with. My mom didn't let me watch Caillou when I was a kid. Caillou was dubbed a bad role model due to him always screaming and crying, and parents always kowtown down. But frick you, Mom, I'm an adult. I can watch a baby show all I want. Oh. Yeah, so there's a good reason I didn't watch this. Yeah, this baby show is not super good in terms of morals. I will give them props for one thing though. I do like their take on autism with Andy. Andy takes a shockingly underutilized approach so far. That being, the character who just wants to be left alone. He wants to be rid of Caillou as much as I do. So seriously, say what you want about the show, but it tackled it better than Arthur. You have normal things like certain hyperfixations and hear loud noises, but you have things like raptor arms, again, the feeling of wanting to be alone, and the 2020 reboot. Oh yeah, there's a 2020 reboot. Sorry, you had to find out this way. They even address sensitivity to loud noises. You know, Caillou, you may not see eye to eye, mostly because of your sneaky poo-poo face, but you know, you win here. If you had to pick a face for autistic characters, I think a fair choice would be Rick Sanchez. That's right, the character best known for being a cold, emotionless, abusive to his own grandson, and turning into a pickle. Great! This is addressed on screen by making a joke about Minecraft fans being autistic. This is the only true big sign of his condition. Wow, it's almost like Justin Roiland ruins everything he touches. Rick really doesn't have any signs of ASD. Heck, in general, he's extremely inconsistent in terms of communication. Sometimes he's great at social cues, other times he's not. He doesn't have a lot of cues we hit on previously. He somehow hits the big stereotype of being a tall, self-pretentious guy who talks in references, while feeling like the writers never heard of autism, which is insane since the co-creator, who doesn't meet women, is autistic. Now, I want to stress, while I don't think Rick is good rep, I do think he's a good character. He's funny, he's gripping. Believe it or not, he's a character I like seeing when I watch the series. He's just not particularly good autism rep in my eyes. I do want to touch on Morty. He's not confirmed, but in the first episode, a teacher says he has a learning disability, and it's possible he could be autistic too. Fully enough, he fits the mold better. He has a stutter, a common thing in ASD that's really rare in media. He has fairly common outbursts, is very socially awkward. He works. You could even interpret the dreaded Minecraft scene as him connecting with the grandpa, and his initial shock as him being offended. But it could just be because it came out of nowhere. Just like this. I went back and forth if Paradox should even be on this list. As I mentioned in that old Marcy video, Paradox was heavily headcanon as autistic, but the show's creator, Rebecca Sugar, has shot down the idea, as she physically cannot be neurodivergent due to Gems not having brains. In that old video, I said it was kind of stupid, moved on. Now that I'm doing this and had a year and a half with this shrunky green gremlin on my brain, that's stupid, I am not moving on. As I mentioned in that video, Rose shapeshifted a womb so she can birth Steven, because Gems in the show can't give birth. Why not just have Paradox as a species have brains? I use the argument, how do you kill a vampire? However you want, they don't exist. There. But honestly, that doesn't fit. The vampires have had media for centuries. We know what to expect from them, so we'd kind of be put off if they had to have someone kill Dracula by breakdancing. Gems are a Steven Universe only thing. So why not just give this to Paradox? You won't have to rewrite the show or anything. She's so clearly made to be it. No shade against Sugar at all. But I really hate the excuse of, she is if you want her to be. Because that's just no extra steps. Like if you from her coffee as an immigrant, if Steven age or freaking spit, why not just pull the trigger on this? One way or the other. Now, I hate recommending people to watch anything besides me, because I'm egotistical god who will destroy all! But I recommend you watch Snake Eye Dreams video on Paradox Autism. Yeah, almost every character on here has a video on them, but since Paradox is kind of in the middle if she's canon or not, just watch him. It's a really thorough video detailing everything that connects Paradox to autism, from personality to animation. And it's what finally pushed me to make this video. I will say, canon or not, Paradox is very commonly accepted as an autistic icon, and that makes me so happy. Fanbase is definitely more accepting of this side of her than a certain other thing, but that's for a different video. So I never heard of Pablo before making this, but this is a really interesting show. The main character is Pablo, not the one from Backyardigans. Everyone I bring this show up to thinks I mean him. There's more than one Pablo, guys. We have a full Pablo universe. What's interesting about the show is not only is Pablo autistic, and it's shown very well throughout the show, as is what they can do in a preschool show, like with Andy and Carl, but more notably, every single voice actor and writer for this show is autistic. Oh, if you're going to start out Billy and Mandy, I genuinely think if a neurotypical person stepped into Pablo Studios, they'll explode. When most people got into She-Ra 2018 for the epic Adora Capture makeout sesh, from what I've noticed now, a lot more people into the show for Entrapta. She's one of the higher profile autistic characters, and Revolution as a character really makes her, my personal opinion, the best part of the show. Unlike most characters confirmed outside the show, Entrapta has confirmation she's of autism on one of her character sheets. So more than most, you can tell her quirks were intentional. While she aligned with the villains from most series, she's not evil. Most of the reason she's with the villains is because she loves technology, and that's her main obsession. She tends to think of tech first and consequences second. Now her malice, just being so hyper obsessed with it. She's much more comfortable with tech than people, as shown in her little mech pet. She also sucks at cues, not knowing if people are upset at her or not. She is, however, fiercely loyal to her friends, being the main reason Hordak redeemed himself. So yeah, Entrapta's great. The way she acts is perfect autism rep. The way people treat her, on the other hand, I plan on making a video on this show and I'll expand on this later. But for now, the worst part of this show is Entrapta's treatment. There's some things like her being abandoned by her friends twice, which is more of a story problem than what I'm discussing here. But there's several times where the princesses call her out for being a bad friend. But that's not true! Entrapta has really bad social skills and can't express herself as well as the others. Both unreasonably mean to her for her betrayal, but aren't nearly as hard as the other redeemed characters. Heck, Entrapta literally tries to save Glimmer, even when she's on the Horde, and no one acknowledges it. Entrapta kept trying to defend them, they turned their back, so she went to the Horde. It's hard to argue against that. Not to mention, they literally put her on a leash. Twice. Keep in mind that she's the oldest of this group. Genuinely, it feels like Hordak is the only person who treats her like an actual human being. When the Princes of Friendship don't got my back, I know the Princes of Darkness can. Can I get an amen? I discussed Dantel a bit in my Rise of the TMNT video, so I'll make this brief. While it's canon, Donnie wasn't made with autism in mind. They just kind of spilled backwards as making one of the best autistic reps, mostly because he's a soft-shell turtle, and thus a lot more sensitive to stimuli. He hates physical contact, has his own security item in the form of his staff, he has new situations, he has very low empathy levels, and he has a relatively monotone voice. All by showing the scene everyone is legally required to show when discussing him.
I'm sorry if that sounded like sarcasm. It wasn't. I am in.
Yeah, he's rad. 101 Dalmatian Street is a sequel to the original Disney film, taking place 60 years after it. That means all the old Dalmatians are dead. So, we need 101 more characters with all new personalities. I have a good idea for one! Autism! That leads us to Dawkins and Da Vinci. Dawkins is the nerdy science dork of the family. Hell, I'm starting to realize there's a lot of inventors in this video. So there's the whole science thing and having a few words he likes to repeat. There's not much connecting him. There's even less to say about Da Vinci. She's only confirmed as such because, well, artists are commonly autistic, so she is too. What? Is every artist in fiction canonically autistic? Like Squidward, Adeline, and Inkling? Okay, bad example. Young Justice is a really great series portraying more realistic struggle, despite being a superhero show. This remained true when they revived the series recently. Part of the revival included aging up Rocket's son, Amstrad Urban. In his introductory episode, he confirmed that he's autistic, and he's actually a fairly realistic portrayal of a family finding out their kid has autism. The relationship between Rocket and Amstrad is done well too, with the school looking down on him and Rocket trying to defend him. The few other cues that he has I won't mention because it's getting repetitive, but I will say it's kind of lame that after this big reveal, he just makes sound cameos for the rest of the series. I mean, that sucks, but hey, he's not Black Manta. Movement is a fairly long-running finished series, but not one that ever had major attention. You might recognize this colored sex man or this creature though. I want to focus on the 2019 series though. Moomin Valley. Smirk is a recurring character in the show. This series is the only time he's canonically autistic. Inventor, likes being alone, hates surprises, very blunt, good representation, thumbs up, insert joke here. This video is so long, you guys. Long ago in a distant land. Like 2016. Pixar used to do original shorts in front of their movies. These have died down, with most shorts being based on existing films, but as these shorts are used to ease in the animators, they kept them around. Most notably in the series Spark Shorts on Disney+. These are all unrelated stories, but I'm going to focus on Loop. This is the only thing here to focus on non-verbal cases of autism. That being this girl, Renee. This is a story that easily could be too sappy or too mean-spirited, but really works with it well. Renee's struggles are shown well, how she has trouble communicating obviously, and she likes doing repetitive things on a loop. Hence the name. Like listening to the same ringtone. I think the kid she's came up with might have taken to her a bit too soon, considering that this starts with him immediately being weirded out by her. But besides that, this is a great short. Also, the short Float is meant to be an analog to the director's son having autism, but as that's an allegory and the kid in the short doesn't have it, I'm skipping him. Okay, I don't know much about Heroes Academy, but from the little I watched for this video, I'll give AJ Gadgets a thumbs up. He's a complete total ripoff of the Fairy Odd Parents character, but while, again from what I know, him being autistic isn't set on screen, it's clearly being planned, as he is super literal, has emotions, and flaps his hands a lot. Also, he's a genius, which, again, is something that everyone here seemingly is. I'm coming for you too, Fricks, I know what you are. Okay, so, this video was written like a month ago, and, this segment was written literally yesterday when I'm recording this. I just found this guy, let's talk about this character, yeah. Despite that, I don't have much to say about Sean from Fancy Nancy. He's another done well character in a preschool show, who's more of a plot device than a character, but he has just enough to count. Loves trains because duh, doesn't like crunchy peanut butter, is a really good listener, about what you expect. He's not a negative portrayal, but there's not a lot to say about him.
Woke up in Utopia, where I fell down a flight of stairs. Broke my leg, but luckily
Hey, wait a minute! Okay, so if you haven't seen my first autism video, it's about Marcy Wu, a main character from Amphibia, being declared as such by the writing staff. For backlash for stupid reasons happened, and the show's creator decanonized it. A year and a shocking amount of support in that video later, like I swear I got a new comment on that like every single month. I reviewed some match points, but now, I really got to disagree with him. I suggest watching that video. I should have said that at the start of this, sorry. But Marcy on her own is a great autism rep. What caused a lot of people to decry this decision was for going through a lot of struggles, most notably being absorbed into a hive mind. But like, that's not portrayed as positive, and she fully recovered by the end of the series. Also, why is it fine canonically by Sasha to nearly kill herself, but not this? Or heck, I mentioned Luz from Owl House being ADHD in that video. Why is everything she goes through fine? Matt says he doesn't want to say something he doesn't know enough about, but like, 1, the internet exists, and 2, shortly after Infinity ended, Matt confirmed 2 recurring side characters were gay, and there was some backlash to it for reasons similar to, if not stupider than the Marcy thing. But Matt immediately came and cleared up everything without running back. Why couldn't he do that here? I say this all because Marcy is still listed as canonically autistic on both Wikipedia and TV tropes. Search for any synonym for autism on Matt's Twitter page, and at best, it seems like he said, if you think she is, she can be. Are my favorite characters cursed or something? Oh well, because there's no canon romance between the girls, and that certainly hasn't stopped the fandom. So hey, if he says she can be autistic, she is to me. They made an animated spin-off to Mr. Rogers. Why? How? I don't know, man. Max is just yet another semi-recurring autistic preschool character. There's not much to say about him. He's fine. But compared to the actual GOAT, Andy from Caillou, there's not much here. Oh boy, I freaking love stretching! It's how I keep in peak physical condition. Serene relief from Inside Job is basically just for female Rick Sanchez. Makes sense to Jack his diagnosis too. Maybe. In the episode Blue Bloods, you know, this one.
Got K-Rool in Smash. I know what that is.
Her mother says she might have Asperger's. Later on, one of her co-workers says the same thing. Then there's a lizard orgy, but that's not important. So in terms of canon, I'm mixed. These are mentioned offhandedly as jokes, but it's never directly shot down. So debate me if you want, but it's enough to at least mention her. In terms of representation, she's doing a lot better than Rick. She's notably intelligent, yet never on the same wavelength as others. Mentioned to have trouble with eye contact, though it's not shown. Very closed off to herself, socially and emotionally. She notably has trouble with relationships, something common for people on the spectrum, though that goes away in season 2. It's interesting because, while this is a comedy, and obviously most of these parts of her are mocked, she's very consistently the most competent character in the series. So, overall, yeah, I think she's great, canon or not. Norma Khan from Dead End Paranormal Park is notably not directly stated in the show to be autistic, which considering what the show gets away with, I'm not entirely sure why. So it's just clear from the way she acts that she is. She is, say it with me, I'm starting to realize how repetitive this video is. I know autistic people like repetitive actions, but this is ridiculous. I mean, yeah, okay, introverted, socially anxious, loyal, tends to be over-assimilated. Yeah, again, even without in-universe confirmation, it's clear. I didn't watch much comics as a kid, but I do respect it. Trains in general are the thing most people connect with hyperextensions, so it's like the autistic show, so I tip my hat to it. That leads us to the reboot All Engine Go, which has a much bolder art style and is aimed at an even younger demographic. People were, of course, very rational about this decision. There's one thing people seem to like about it. The character Bruno. Knowing the symbiotic relationship Thomas and autism have, they ensured that Bruno was a really good rep. Albeit, I still think Andy is winning the preschool autism battle royale. I do question how it trained to be neurodiverse, though. It's in his brain. I'm just saying, Steven Universe crew, you now have no excuse. The Proud Family reboot, Louder and Prouder, while starting off really good, got really controversial during its second season last year. Partially for stupid reasons. I mean, this was always a fairly political show. But yeah, it can be a little preachy and misguided. Like that episode that basically ends the exact same way as a certain Loud House episode. But the second last episode, BB, is interesting. Mostly because it has a gosh dang peanut butter jelly times reference in the year 2023, oh my lord. It also confirms that the young son of the family, BB, is on the spectrum. Oh, I know he's in the original series, but Wikipedia lists him in 2023, and it's much funnier to start with Death himself than a baby. I'm conflicted on this episode. There's really not much to BB as a character. For most of the series, he's the exact same as his sister. In this episode alone, he's just shown as being a bit more ambitious and less cautious than her. It's a bit more focused on the reaction from the family, which is fine, but I don't know. There's something a little off about Oscar's complete refusal of the possibility BB is on the spectrum. He comes around on the end, but I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. Same with the whole thing about him having so much energy is because he's autistic. I thought it was more because he was like 2. I'm mixed on this, but there's not much to say about it, so I'll just move on now. Also, for some reason, they end with BB having electric powers, which, no, we cannot control lightning. Everyone knows the only power we have is shapeshifting. Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, there was a lot of new doll lines all trying to steal Barbie's crown. While a lot of these did manage their own niche, it's hard to be something as huge as Barbie. So, where does second place go if it can't be number 1? Simple. Just be unbelievably gay. The 2022 Monster High reboot Despite having animations different than the dolls are based on, it actually has a pretty good representation. But that's not the only thing they have. Leading us to Twilight Boogeyman. We start with the autistic Grim Reaper, now with the autistic Boogeyman. Hollywood, got something you want to tell us? She's introduced as the friend of Draculaura, but tends to hide in the shadows. She has near encyclopedic knowledge of history, hates loud noises, and has a bracelet to fiddle with. I was really worried going into this, because I mean, Boogeyman is autistic, it sets off some alarms, but they blend the autistic and monster traits really well. It's actually a really clever way to explain some of the traits of Boogeyman without feeling too offensive or preachy. They really did the research here, so I stand for artistic Boogeyman. And the end was June Shen from The Ghost of Molly McGee, who debated in Season 2's premiere, I am not joking, exactly 1 day after Twyla. Big weekend for autism. I've been interested in common with her actually. Both of them are among the few who just come out and say they're artistic right from the start. And can I just say, thank you? No offhanded jokes, no if you want them to be, no backpedaling, no me needing to dig for lost interviews, no wishy-washiness from the show, no whatever the frick lemon grab is. Just, hi, I'm autistic. Simple, easy, peaceful. I say this all since there's not much to her. I mean, there's definitely traits. She's really honest even when it's not appropriate. She's sensitive to loud noises, and of course, she's a tech genius. I'm starting to feel really inadequate about myself, knowing I am apparently the only autistic person who isn't a master inventor. She calls me a minor character, mostly staying with her ghost hunting family, only breaking off more than halfway through Season 2, and still not doing much. She's good, just not much to her. Which, thank God, I said I can finally wrap this up. Go me, go me, go me! And we are finally done. They said one man couldn't contain this much raw, uncontained autism power. But they were cowards! Now I should mention Fry from Futurama. His voice actor Billy West has both autism and ADHD, and he says he channels that into Fry. But that's not true confirmation. Now before I go to my big conclusion, I do want to throw in a few extra fun stats I found. For one, I think it's notable how few characters have Asperger's and not autism specifically. Asperger's is an outdated term, due to it being discovered and named after a literal Nazi, being referred to as just high-functioning autism ever since a decade ago. Of these though, 6 are specified to have it, which is interesting I think. In fairness, 4 have the diagnosis their creators have, and 1 is made for Asperger's is degenerized. Second, just a fun side note, channel-wise, Disney has 7, Nick has 5, CN has 7, Netflix has 3, and PBS has 4. I mentioned this tends to be underdiagnosed in non-whites or males, so I think it's interesting that 12 are women, and of the 23 humans on this list, nearly half aren't white. I'm not making a statement, just noting. In terms of creators and actors, the creators of Billy and Mandy, El Tigre, Rick and Morty, Pablo, and Dead End are all autistic. While the voices for AJ, Renee, Sean, Bruno, Bibi, Twyla, and June are as well. A storyboarder who is heavily involved with making Entrapta is as well, as are some voice actors who didn't voice the character discuss, like Frost's voice actors Merritt Lingdon, or Max Marion narrator Barry Humphries, but that's getting a bit too crazy. Finally, the big thing. On-screen confirmation. Out of 33 characters, there's 16. Not even half. If you want to go extremely hard on my rules, and get rid of anyone, absolutely anyone who's found me a joke or message, then knocks it down to 6. And that's the major problem, I think. Everyone here is fine, sure, the few bad apples are mostly good ones with some bad moments. But overall, it's fairly just nothing. Again, I really had to stretch to get on this level. Now granted, autism is a spectrum, and you could relate to some of the ones I said weren't particularly accurate. Again, everyone is different. Besides me, I got the obsessed with cartoons autism. That's like the most common basic one there is. You go to the autism gotcha game, and you roll like 50, you'll get like billions of lives. You have to keep rolling to it like the high level 5-star good math and science autism. But that's the real stuff. But I think it's a little lame that so many are just off-screen confirmations. And most of the ones on screen are jokes and morals. Like, this was discovered in 1911. I doubt it's that controversial. Put this into perspective, 1 year before gay marriage was legal, we already had 2 explicitly gay couples in children's animation. Again, no shade, that's fantastic. It really does make me wonder why it took us so long to get anything. Is autism, like, that controversial? I don't think it should be. Autistic people are people at the end of the day. We should be able to see ourselves, and not just as ways to point and laugh at, or just the message of the day. We are people. We should be able to express ourselves the same way the rest of the cast can. Why are we stuck with minor characters exclusively for explicit non-joke ones? Not just cartoons, by the way. It's an everyone problem. 80% of the time, autism is shown either super sappily or as a superpower. I get that unlike, say, gay lesbian characters, it's really hard to show characters explicitly autistic without saying it. But like, just say it. I got a comment on my old video saying something around the lines of, I never saw these characters as autistic. I just saw them as characters. It shouldn't matter whether they are or not. I think that's absolutely stupid. The same commenter, who's a friend I must stress, did a thread on bi characters. And I say, if we can and should have a variety of sexuality shown, why not autism? I never looked at any character as just autistic or not. I mean, I did it for this video, but that's the point. As I said with Rick, good character and good rep aren't hand in hand. I hated myself when I was diagnosed. I hated being different. I didn't understand what I was, why I was. I didn't choose this. I didn't go to the big character creator in the sky and decide to take this to be quirky. And I do generally think seeing more characters like me in media would have helped a lot. Not just seeing SpongeBob and Earl Jr. and picking up on subtle things, having some special confirmation that there were people like me. That's not weird or wrong for me to be like this. If I can't go back and have that, I hope the next generation can, and I can still find some in my adulthood. And looking at this list, it is getting a lot more frequent. It's just not frequent enough. It's all I can truly hope for. Also for Matt and Rebecca to confirm Marcy and Peridot. I know this is more serious than normal content, well, marginally, but I wanted to do this for like years. So thanks for watching, and peace.
You recognized it? You know, I thought at first I'd go with the Orpheus proposition, but I didn't have any milk.